and welcome back today with Cooking with Ricky Allen. I have to stop and think of my own name sometimes.
I would like to welcome you back to one of the next cuts we're going to be doing is Blue Bayou. It's recorded by Linda Ronstadt. It was written, not many people know, by Roy Orbison and Joe Melson. Joe used to work over at the Frost Top fixing up grilled cheese sandwiches. He got a job as a songwriter in Nashville, so he teamed up with Roy. They both wore sunglasses all the time, so they kind of hit it off. And Linda picked up on the song, and we thought we'd do it. This next one's going to go out to a big fan of ours named Floyd Kramer. I know that you remember him from years back. Unmistakable Sideburns.
He had that big album back in '73.
Yeah, it was the class of '73, in fact. Tying Little Ribbon and Killing Me Softly with His Kisses. So, Floyd, this one goes out to you. I know you're out there with Mr. Paycheck pushing up Daisy. So, this one goes out to you, brother.
So today we're going to make a Bock Beer, and we're going to make it from just an extract kit. There's a lot of ways to make beer, and I've done it all kinds of ways, and this is a quick, easy way to make 5 gallons worth of beer. And a friend of mine's actually got a party coming up. A couple of years ago we made some beer for his party, and we did it a little differently. This year we're just going to do a straight kit beer, and I'm going to kind of walk you through everything you're going to have. Obviously you're going to have a kit. This comes with instructions, and it comes, if we can get the lid off here, and it comes with the yeasties. Here's the instructions that come with it. We're not going to use those. We're going to go by my directions for these 5-gallon extract kits. So, and if you want a copy of this, in the description below I'll have my email address. You can certainly email me, and I'll get you a copy of this a PDF copy of this emailed back to you. So we'll refer to this as we go along. But things we're going to need today, obviously we're going to need a fermentation container. This thing is multi-use. I like to use these for making wine as well. So whenever you're separating the fruit from the juices, this works really good for that. But today we're going to be using it for beer, and as it says, beer and wine. And we're going to need a pot that we can boil 1 gallon of water. And the kind of water that I would recommend you use is something that doesn't have chlorine in it. Now, if you can't get water that doesn't have chlorine in it, one way you can do it is get you a sterilized bucket like this, fill it up full of water, and let it set for a couple of days, and the chlorine kind of dissipates out of it, if you will. Our city water here doesn't have chlorine in it. It is sanitized with an ultraviolet light, so I don't have to worry too much about chlorine here. There's other kind of waters that you can use. Just all of it will make beer. You can make beer with anything, but you will get a little different taste if you're using water that's got chlorine in it, so keep that in mind. Another way you could do it is you can boil the water, and I'm not sure how long it takes to boil the chlorine out, so one of the viewers may know this better than me, so you can certainly, jump right in and put a comment in there. But so there's a lot of ways you can do it. But for this today, we're going to use tap water, and we're going to boil 1 gallon of it. We're going to set this in a pan of hot water first. We're going to do that first while we're sterilizing everything to get this, because this stuff is really thick, like Karo syrup or something. I mean, it's really thick. So if you heat this can up, we'll open up the top, and we'll set it down in some boiling water, well, water that has boiled. We're not going to boil it in it. And just let it get nice and hot, and then by the time we're ready to pour this into our mixture, it'll come out a lot easier. Another thing we're going to need is a spatula to scrape the bottom of the can to get it all out with. And then we're going to have a spoon to stir this with up here once we get all of that put in there. And we're going to have an airlock. These come in many different fashions. This is the one I'm going to use today. What you do is this fits in the top of the lid, and you put water in it up to this mark, put that back on there, and then that allows the air, the gases, to come out, and it'll bubble. So some people don't like to put water in this. Some people like to put, some sort of alcohol in it. I mean, I've heard people, they do everything with this. So I just use water. I make sure it's sterile. We're going to clean this just like everything else. And if I have to add water to it during the fermentation cycle, which sometimes you do, if you get a lot of gases and a lot of bubbling, it'll get dirty and nasty, so you have to clean it. I always just get another one. I have 2 or 3 of these, get it ready, and I just swap them out real quick, because you want to try to not get any contaminants from the air in this. You want to limit the amount of air that gets to this when it's fermenting. And after it's done, actually. But this particular one here, we're going to take it up to my buddy's that's having a party, and we're going to put it in one of his kegs, and then he's going to lay the CO2 to it to get ahead. For those people that watch my show regularly or watch my channel regularly, you know that normally I do secondary fermentation to get the head on the beer. Natural way of doing it is just to add more sugar and then bottle it. But we're not going to do that here. We're just going to bring it down to 1,000 specific gravity after it's fermented. It should take about 5 to 7 days. And we'll check it periodically, which is the next thing I want to talk about. If you don't have one of these, this is a hydrometer, and you can see on here it has all kinds of scales, potential alcohol, and then it has a balling rate, all kinds of good things. Well, what we're going to do today is when we get this all mixed up, we're going to float this down in there, and we're going to take our reading on our specific gravity scale, and then we're going to write that number down, and then we're going to watch it till it gets down around this 1,000 mark. It usually gets to 0, which is just below the 1,000, or just above the 1,000 mark. And once it gets to that, then that tells me that all the potential from the sugars that are in the wort have been converted to alcohol. All of it each yeast will support so much alcohol transformation, depending on the yeast. So the yeast that comes with this should make about a 5% beer, maybe a little less, and we'll be able to calculate that with this by taking a reading in the beginning and a reading in the end, subtracting it, and then following it around on the scale, and it'll tell us what percentage beer this winds up being. So, trying not to get too complicated, it's all on this sheet. Again, if you want a copy of this, how to make this really easy and quick, it's taking me longer to explain it to you than it does once you learn how to do it. You can just whip it together. So, talking about sugar, the next thing we're going to use is 6 cups of sugar. Now, I've made beer with everything. I do not recommend using cane sugar for anything. Now, there's some exceptions to that depending on what type of beer you're making. I have made this Bock Beer using brown sugar before, and it makes a really interesting flavor. And that's a cane sugar that's been, if you know anything about sugars, you bake the sugar until it turns brown, That's how they make these. It starts to convert, and that's why brown sugar is always moist, where regular sugar is not. But this is a corn sugar. This is what's recommended for brewing, and for secondary fermentation. So you can buy it. This just happens to be LD Carlson's or something. There's no promotion for that for this show. I'm just telling you that's what I'm using here today. So we're going to be putting sugar in there. And then we're just going to, again, mix it all together in the little thing here. And one of the things we're going to use to clean everything with in the very beginning, is very important to get everything clean. We're going to use one step. And we're going to clean all the surfaces. We're going to clean the stove and the sink area where we're going to sterilize all this stuff with this product. We're going to clean the countertops off. We're going to clean our hands in it. All of these little tools, which by the way, this is a siphoning tube. Everything we're going to use, we're going to sterilize because we're trying to control what type of bacteria gets in here. Because the bacteria is, from this yeast, is what's going to convert the sugar to alcohol. So, all right. So what I'm going to do next is first thing I like to do is get my starter yeast going. So basically I'm going to show you how to do that, and it goes like this right here. Okay, so what we've got here is just a 10 or 12 ounce glass. This is just going to act as part of the water that we're going to use. And we've got our yeast that came with the kit, and we're going to use some warm tap water, not hot, but warm. You don't want it to be over 90 degrees because it will cause the yeast to not want to grow. So, you can do the old thing like you did when you were getting your baby's bottle formula ready. Feels like it's about 90 degrees. So I'm going to put in about a half a glass there, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of sugar, just something to get that yeast started on. Then we're going to open this up with, well, we'll have to find something to cut this open with. How about this? Okay. And we're going to put this all in this jar, or in this little glass, just like that. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then we're going to stir this all up. Now I've got the windows open today, and so anything blowing in that window has the opportunity to get into this glass. Just keep that in mind. I guess we could get a coronavirus mask and put over this thing and keep people from, or keep anything out. It would work as good as it does for that. Okay, so we've got it pretty well stirred up. So we're gonna, it's in front of this window, and I don't, stuff could come blow in. So we're gonna move it and set it over here out of the way. There's our instructions that we're not gonna use. And we're gonna let that set there, and I'll bring you back after a while, and it will have raised up with bubbles. Alright, show you more. Okay, so we're going to sterilize our stuff up here. So I'm going to get some hot water going. And I'm just using hot tap water. I'm going to put about 2 gallons in this bucket. We're going to put 2 scoops of this in there. A teaspoon of this makes a gallon of sanitation liquid. I don't know how else better to say it. I've got a clean towel in here, so we want to just kind of wash everything down. And I'm talking about everything you think you're going to touch while you're cooking this, because we want to be as clean as we can. So the handle back here for the sink top. We're going to wipe the sink out. And I've already kind of wiped all this down with a regular rag, but I don't want any cross-contamination if I can keep from it. wiping the can off. I'm gonna go ahead and take this label off of here if it'll come off. Sometimes they won't. Yeah, it's not. It's pretty stuck on there, but when we put it in the water, it will. So I'm gonna put that down in there. I'm gonna turn my tea kettle on to get some boiling hot water on that. Okay, so that's about enough of that. We're gonna continue to put in hot water into this. And let's wipe our stove down. Just anything that you think is going to, because like I said, beer is beer. I mean, it's going to make beer no matter what, but you kind of want to control the taste if you can. So, got this pot that we're going to boil a gallon of water in there. Now, in my instructions, I talk about using a pot that is a 2-gallon pot and boiling a pot. This pot is actually 1.5 gallons, and I've done this enough that I know where the gallon water line's at. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that up full of hot tap water, and then we're going to get that boiling. Turn some lights on here. Okay, that might help a little. So, what else do we need to sterilize? All of this stuff. Everything we think we're going to use, just throw that down in there. You don't want to throw that down in there, that will break. Okay, that's about up to where I want it. A good gallon of boiling water. Now my stove boils stuff really fast, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to flip that on high, and I'm going to get some clean towels and lay out, and then I'll show you more. Okay, looks like our water's boiling, and I have already got our lid opened up with the can opener, and we're ready to pour that in. We're going to put this boiling water into the pot, and we're going to take the extract, and we're going to pour that in there and wipe it all out. And we're going to add our sugar. We're going to stir it all up real good, and then we're going to start adding our 4 gallons of cold water. So, let's just get started. Sometimes that can be pretty hot, but I think I can hold on to it. So see how thick that is? And that's after we've let it soak for about 10 minutes to get the sides of the can warm. Sorry for all the noise out there. That's the kids getting off school running the stop sign down there. But that's another video. Okay, let's just keep getting all this out of here. You want to try to get as much of this out of here as you can, because this is where your flavor's at. I mean, you could just take yeast and water and sugar and make alcohol, but you know, you're trying to get a flavor. And this particular kit or extract makes a really good tasting Bock beer. It's fairly low. You know, you could add more sugar and probably get this up close to 5. I would say, like I said earlier, this is probably going to be more like about a 3.5 or a 4, just because I've made it a lot, and that's what it tests out to be. Let's get some more of that out there. We'll try to get as much of that as we can. Okay. Now, I like to get it all off of this thing too. That over here. Now, we want to put the sugar in here. And Now we're going to stir it up. Let me bring you in a little closer so you can see. This is what we're looking at now. And you can tell, I mean, I can tell by stirring this, see how there's still a lot of that extract down in the bottom. So I want to get all that stirred up. Mixed with that sugar. And see, right now, it's way too hot to throw the yeast in it. But this formula works pretty good. And we're going to be putting in 4 gallons of cold tap water right in on top of this. And then that gets our temperature down to where we can throw the yeast to it without killing the yeast. And I'm going to show you the yeast here in a minute because it's already got about an inch of foam on the top of it. And it's only been about 10, maybe 15 minutes since we started this whole process. So again, this is a nice quick way to make a batch of beer. You can come home on your lunch hour and, while you're snacking on your sandwich, you can whip up a batch of beer. So, and if you're kegging, like we're going to do this one, or when I take it up to Kent's, he's going to put it in one of his kegs. It's a lot less time consuming than bottling. You guys have watched my channel before and watched me bottle beer. It's a long process. You got to sterilize the bottles, you got to sterilize the lids, and siphon them all full, and so yeah, it's a lot easier to keg. I just don't have the equipment to keg, but I'm thinking about maybe going that direction. I've been doing it this way since 1985, so sometimes it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks, but sterilizing bottles and bottling that's a lot of work. Okay, see, it's all clear, so it's all mixed up good. So let's start putting in our 4 gallons of cold water. Okay, and begin to fill this up with cold water. And you might say, well, how accurate do you measure that all out and everything? Well, it just so happens that this wonderful maker of this jug takes all the dumbness right out of it, because right here, if you're using liters, you can go by this scale, and if you're using US gallons, you can go by this scale. And as you can see, this is 5 US gallons at this mark, and that's what I'm shooting for. And you can see right here, by the sun coming in, that this is where we're at. So I'm going to get this last little dab here, and let's try to fill that up to that mark without spilling it all over the kitchen. We're getting close. Yeah, a little more. Just like I've done it before, 5 gallons. Okay. Now we're going to stir that up. And then I want to record this, so I'm going to got me a piece of paper here, because we want to take our hydrometer reading at this point. So we're just going to put this down in there, and it's going to float. So you can get you over here where you can see this a little better. Sorry for the camera work, but I'll tell you what, if we can get 1,000 subscribers, I've got a guy that will help me film these shows, and it'll be a lot better. But you guys have got to click that subscribe button. Okay. Alright, it's right about right there. Okay. So it's just under the 5% mark. So if we go all around here, we're at 1,004, probably about 1,042. Okay, 1,042. So we're going to take it down to just 0, which is about 1,001 or 1,010. So that's going to put us, if you take this from that and add a little, or just deduct a little bit for this, it's going to be about 4.5% or so. Okay, that's how. And of course, as it sits here and ferments, and the bubbles come out the top and all that kind of stuff, the alcohol's turning to the sugar's turning to alcohol. this will sink lower and lower. And we want to get it down to about here, where this zero's at, which is about 1,010, and then we're ready to either bottle it, or in this case, we're going to keg it. So, all right. Now, as you can tell by touching this, this is nice and cold. My baby bottle warmer is sterilized here, so I'm gonna, yeah, see, it's not hot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our yeast, and you can see it's foamed up about an inch there, about an inch of foam there. So I'm gonna stir that back down, get all this good stuff off the side of it here, and we're gonna pour that in there. Okay. And I'll get all of that out of there. And I'm going to just give it a light stir. Then we're going to put our lid on it. And this is of course, this is a food-ready plastic. You know, you don't want to just go to Home Depot and buy an orange bucket, because I don't think that's food grade. But I have heard of people doing it, so I don't know what it causes, but I've got plenty of these. So we're going to take and fill this up to this line. And again, I'm just using regular water. Every brewer's got their own way of doing things. Now, I will tell you at this point, don't put the cap on it so that the air coming out of this can get out of it until we get it set in this grommet. Like that. Then we're going to put our bubbler in there and our top. And there you have it. That is 5 gallons, or it will be. Now there'll be a little bit in the bottom that'll be the crusties, or the poop as I call it. It's the residue from the yeast turning the sugar to alcohol. You're going to have a little bit of waste. So we're probably going to get 4.5 gallons out of it, maybe, because I don't want all the sludge. Because what I'll do with this is I will rack this into a clean container like this to take it up to Kent's so we can pour it into his keg after he sterilizes his keg and everything. So maybe I'll take the, that'll be a week or so, 7 to 10 days, something like that. So maybe I'll take the camera along when we do that and show you that. So, all right, thanks for coming along. I hope this helps you make some good tasting beer, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe, hit that bell, that does something. And I know making a comment helps my channel out, so do that as well, and share this with all your friends and get them to subscribe as well. So anyway, have a great day. Bye.
I was walking down the street, I was minding my own affair.
Run, Tallulah, run!
Hi, baby.